Yes, somebody be thinking about whether or not they want to volunteer for me to give them some fake foot care in a minute. Over here. Other than that, let's roll because we are close on time. Sorry.
Yep.
Okay. So, talk about why it even matters for us to provide foot care, how we keep it safe, how the general process works, and then basic care for the stuff we see a lot, like blisters and foot fungus and wounds, and then like when you probably need to call for help. This is really important, and we focus on feet, although there are so many other health things that our folks often need help with, because feet bear the brunt of the abuse when folks are walking pretty much everywhere they go. Especially when people have circulatory issues or diabetes or things, and all the walking compounds that, and lack of access to like regular showers and keeping clean is problematic. A lot of folks have a hard time eating healthy foods, and generally live like really stressful lives. So there's not often a lot of places where people can rest their weary feet and get care without having to maybe walk across town to see their doctor. So we try to take at least basic foot care to the streets and to our resource shelters along with us so that we can keep checking in on folks, or at least help to recognize with our friends when they need to seek more help. Okay, so first things first, before you touch anybody, ever, generally, but especially doing medical care, you want to ask for somebody's consent. A lot of folks are carrying a lot of trauma around with them, and you just need to get their permission before you start touching their bodies. Pretty important. I think it's helpful to narrate things as you go, to explain what you're doing at each step of the process so people feel comfortable, don't get triggered, feel free to say no at any point in the process or that they're not comfortable with something. So always ask first. And then give a disclaimer if you're not a medical professional. Say, hey, I noticed you got a blister. I'm not a doctor, but I know a little bit about first aid and I can help you patch this up. Unless, of course, you are a doctor, and then feel free to do whatever you feel like your level of training allows or you're able to do. But don't do anything past that. So it's important to remember safety first. Gotta love the gloves. Not trying to swap germs or other things with our friends from us or from them. So making sure that you're washing your hands between and during and after, and changing your gloves every time that you're working with somebody different. A lot of the gear that we use, just like toss it. We're not trying to recycle things that are potentially germy, and we do our best to sterilize the things that we do use. So we're always washing our foot tubs and our clippers and things like that in bleach solution until somebody has a better option than that, to try to get rid of any yucky things that exist. So there's that. I'll give you a quick overview of how things usually work at the resource shelter. Like we've mentioned before, we often try to have haircuts available. We have people who are on hand to work on housing paperwork, doing birth certificates, etc. Folks are taking showers and finding clean clothes and things like that. But we also have foot clinics set up. When people come to the shelter and sign in, they'll usually check if they want to sign up for foot care that evening. And a lot of people do, because you get to soak your feet and get a little bit of a foot massage, and it feels great. And the attention, I think, is really important for people. So when you get to your shelter site, it's really helpful to check in with whoever's coordinating there, which you should know via email ahead of time. And see what the timing for that particular shelter is. I know at mine on the west side, people don't usually sit down for foot care and haircuts until after dinner, so at least after 6. But it's helpful to get there at least a little bit early to set up if you're needed for that. And then check in about where your supplies are and what you'll need. See maybe how many people have signed up. And know your limits. If 20 people have signed up for foot care and you're the only person there for the night, you're probably going to need to know that you're not going to get to all those people because you can't stay until 1 in the morning. You got to take care of yourself too. And we usually wrap up the sort of services portion of that around 9 or 10 or whenever folks finish up and need to go home. So it's helpful to know how many people have signed up. And then if it's like a whole lot of people, to be able to kind of triage like who maybe needs the foot care the most. So it's helpful as folks are eating dinner to go through and walk around and just like check in with people like, hey, I'm here doing feet tonight, like see me over there whenever you're done with dinner or such and such, just so people can plan. Yeah, and then to make sure you communicate with your site coordinator at the end of the evening, because they'll probably want to know, we're trying to keep track of this, maybe how many feet you took care of, if there are any things that they need to restock before the next one, and make sure that cleanup is handled and that they know where the dirty foot towels and things are so we don't later find a bag of really yucky moldy towels somewhere in the building, because that's really unpleasant. Questions so far about like how that fits into the flow of the evening? Okay.
So how do you triage if you've got 25 people you know you're not going to do?
Yeah, so I would, if it's your first time, there's going to be a lot of people that you've never seen before, probably all of the people, and you might check in about the list with your site coordinator, who's probably going to know most of those people and can tell you like, I know so-and-so is having a really hard time with health stuff right now, like make sure you get these people, or even just like checking in with the folks who have signed up. Your coordinator can like kind of point people out or introduce you, and you can say like, hey, like I've got a lot of people tonight and just need to figure out like who we need to really get in. Chances are, I would say average about like 5 to 10-ish people who usually want foot care. Some people are really shy about it. Some people are really ticklish. So there's like a whole lot of reasons that people might pass on that. But then some folks who are like there for it. You know what I mean? So it just depends. But yeah, just know how long you can stay and how much energy you have, etc. We usually have people kind of in the setup on the floor. It's a good idea to sit on stools. For some reason, we just don't have them. If you have something like that and want to bring it, like, more power to you. If sitting on the floor is too hard, we can figure something else out. So, pretty flexible. Other questions? Okay. Does somebody want to pretend to get foot care for just a minute? You don't even have to, like, let me really touch your feet.
I don't mind if you touch my feet. I just feel bad. I've been working all day and my crunches.
You don't, I've seen all the feet. So, like,
I'm here if you touch them, but
let's do it. Let's do it if you don't mind. Okay, so if I'm running foot clinic for the evening, I'm gonna be like, hey, like I'm ready for you. If you're ready to sit down, I'm gonna make sure all my supplies are out. Usually we set down like a big sheet underneath in case there's like splashes of water or things like that, so people aren't slipping around. Everybody gets a sanitized tub, obviously. And so you'll figure out whatever sort of situation works for you. I'm passing on the water because it always makes people nervous when I actually do this, so we'll do a dry run. Okay, so I'm gonna say like, probably it's someone I know, but I'm gonna be like, hey, I'm Lauren.
Jordan.
Good to meet you, Jordan.
Nice to meet you.
So do you have any like cuts or blisters or things going on with your feet that you need me to know about?
I think there's a couple sores going on, but I'm not really sure.
Got some sore spots.
Mm-hmm.
Any chance you're diabetic or having those kind of problems?
Yeah, I think my sugar gets high sometimes.
Sugar gets really high. Okay, so I'm noticing maybe circulation problems. And okay, so we'll be extra careful with these feet because you don't want to cause extra problems for someone who's already having a hard time because they're diabetic. So I'm just gonna make sure I don't cut your feet, which I would obviously do for everyone. Make sure I don't cut you. And usually I have my tools set up in like a bigger tub with like lots of my bleach water, so things are soaking. We've got these spily things. Try to only use the ones that come apart, obviously, so you can clean them. These little bits clip on. Like, I don't trust pumice stones. I don't know how anybody else feels about that. We've always got good strong clippers that you need to be careful with because they're sharp. If someone is like, there's no way I'd ever cut someone else's toenails, like, that's okay. Some people will want you to, but it's just as easy to say like, hey, here's some clippers, I'm gonna let you handle that. I want to be extra careful and like, you know what you need to do, like, and that's fine too. So there's definitely like leeway if you're not quite comfortable with someone else's toenails. So there's that. We've always got first aid supplies, all the things that you'll need, most of the things that you'll need. We've got Epsom salt and nice smelling like foot soaks and all the things. So I would go ahead and ask, like, would you like to soak your feet in a little bit of Epsom salt? Of course, if you've got cuts or open sores on your feet, you might not want to do that with the soap and the salts because burning and discomfort. So you might say,
No, thank you.
no thanks.
Good.
Okay, then we'll just do some warm water, and like that's okay too. Sometimes feet are already like really clean and fine. It just feels nice to soak them and get some attention. Sometimes feet have like some real things going on, right? I'm not gonna lie, like I've had to wash like crusty things off people's feet, and you just need to be prepared for that. You also can always ask your site coordinator for help if that's not your thing. So there's always like a way out. You can always throw an open table person under the bus for these kinds of things if that's what you need to do. So we're gonna let these soak a little bit, probably, if you've got time. It always feels nice. Maybe we would chat a little bit, and I would not ask you super personal questions, but I would be curious about your life, like we just practiced in our listening session. And then at some point, I'm gonna make sure that I've like, obviously, my gloves are on the whole time. So imagine that my gloves are on. So I'm taking care of your feet. I'm gonna check them out. I'm gonna be asking the whole time, like, let me know if something hurts or if that's sensitive or feels uncomfortable. If you're super ticklish, I'll try to be careful, etc. And then whenever you're ready, I take them out and rinse them. It helps if you let people's feet soak for a good bit if they want you to like file down callousy parts, and most people do, I find. So that's helpful. After I've like done all of that, then I'll pick them up. I'll be like, hey, I'm gonna pick up your feet one by one and rinse them. And so I'm like gonna gently like rinse, put over here, rinse, put over here. And we've got clean towels for everybody, of course. And then I'm gonna,
What are you rinsing with?
just clean water.
In this bottle or?
I usually have, I grab this as a visual aid. Usually at your sites there will be like a water pitcher that will just have someone running to refill. It helps if there are at least 2 people. They usually are at Foot Clinic. Maybe only one of them is actually touching feet. But usually someone is assisting by like taking the tubs and sanitizing and bringing it back, or bringing more water if you need it, and that sort of thing. So I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna pat your feet dry really carefully because obviously the blisters and the things that you're dealing with. And I'm gonna make sure that I get them really dry, especially in between your toes, because we don't want there to be moist places for foot fungus to hang out. Then you've got the option, of course in this case we don't want to because someone's probably gonna need some bandages. But you've got lotion you can do if people are having a hard time with foot fungus, especially. You want to keep feet dry, so you're better off to use like a medicated foot powder. We've always got antifungal creams on hand that you can Q-tip in between toes and all the places. But in this case, I would forego those until I had taken a look at your places that need patching. And we've got all of like the antibacterial stuff and band-aids of every shape and size and all the things. And then at the end, after your feet were in great shape, we try to have like 1 million pairs of clean socks to offer people, or like multiple pairs to take with you if that's possible, because we're trying to keep people in clean socks. If folks have trouble with circulation, it's really easy to just snip their socks or cut this little stretchy part off the top so that they fit better if you're trying to not get somebody's legs squeezed really tight. Sometimes we've got diabetic socks on hand, but not always. And then I'd be like, all right, thanks, hope that feels better. Or like, hey, I noticed that was looking like really tricky. If you have a chance, like maybe head to the downtown clinic this week and see if they can give you a strong course of antibiotics or something to, not that I like know all the things, right? But I'll give you some pointers now on like when you might want to get people to some more help.
Is there any resource that helps with like better fitting shoes for anybody? Like if they are constantly having a...
We try to have as many as we've gotten donated or whatever with our clothing. at resource shelters. And if people are like, yeah, in a real need, we can try to track those down for sure, but there's not like, this is the place to go for shoes, unfortunately. Lots of clothing closets, but it is hard for people to find shoes that fit and aren't like worn out already or are like actually sturdy shoes. So that's the thing. You'll see people with like crazy blisters. They're like, yeah, this is my only pair of shoes and I'm gonna keep wearing them and they're gonna keep rubbing that spot because that's my only option. So
Yeah, that was one of the frustrating parts about general. There was a lot of missing limbs.
yeah,
I feel like could have stuck around.
yep, that's real. Okay, thanks so far. Questions or like, hey, what if you did this better? Okay, keep thinking about it.
After each foot cleaning, does the volunteer take notes on who they saw and what their conditions were physically?
Not so much. We try to keep track of like how many folks were getting like through the clinic. If there's something that you think somebody needs to check up on, like definitely let maybe your site coordinator know. Yeah, and most of us, at least me and Lindsay, and usually someone at Hillcrest, have had quite a bit of experience with like bandaging feet and things like that. If you get in over your head, just like definitely let someone know. Okay, so here are the basics. Oh yeah, we do Epsom salt, partly because they feel good, partly because they help dry out feet and get rid of athlete's foot and things like that if you do it often enough. The main thing with that, let's see. Oh yeah, here's some great conversation starters. You can get awkward about talking to people and that's totally fair. Keep it general. Here, go to this one. The main thing about foot fungus, like I said, is that you need to like try to keep the conditions a bit drier. If you're not familiar with what that looks like, it can take lots of different shapes and forms and things, but when it gets really bad, you can see people's skin kind of start to break down, get really like softer and whitish and peely and bad, and often kind of smelly at that point. But it might just be like red and dry and itchy. It's like how far advanced it is. You'll see a lot of toenails.
How can they tolerate that sauce? If it's like
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you've got skin that's broken, like, don't do it. If you're like in the like itchy feet kind of part of that, it seems like at least people say that that's like a thing to do. I'm trusting that. I haven't had my own athlete's foot to deal with maybe in quite a while. So if you have advice about that, totally open to it. Yeah, if skin is broken, you're wanting to forego those things because that just sounds really painful. Yeah, don't try to peel or like rub skin off at this point. That's why we're doing like the patting dry instead of rubbing. Because people's skin is pretty delicate at that point. You'll see a lot of toenails that are kind of like gnarly. There's not a whole lot we can do about that. You need like to take some meds if you're going to try to deal with toenail fungus once it gets like pretty far down the road. But a lot of times people will want you to try to like trim their toenails, and it's just hard. I'll just say that you want to like, if you heard Lindsay tell the story about me accidentally hitting somebody in the face with a toenail that went flying earlier, it's just a thing that happens. If you've got a guard hand, use the guard hand. Just 100% of the time, close your mouth. I won't even tell that story. But they get tricky. It gets real tricky. Yes, other questions? Does that make you feel scared? It's okay. You don't have to cut anyone's toenails if you don't want to. It doesn't really get to me. And people are usually like really glad that you did it. So I always am like, better safe than sorry. Don't try to cut somebody's toenails like down all the way, because you're just gonna get them. But just like get them so that they're not rubbing in someone's shoe and like hurting. Okay. How do you go back? That way. Blisters. See a lot of blisters. A lot have been like open and drainy and need some bandaging. And whatnot. So don't pop some of those blisters. It's not a good idea. If it's likely to like pop in their shoe or something bad, send them with Band-Aids, and we keep little packets of Neosporin and stuff that you can send with folks to try to keep that clean, alcohol wipes and all the things. But we're not trying to open anybody's skin up at the resource shelter. I always do the donut method for blister care with moleskin and nonstick gauze. We've got, this is like my favorite thing in the world for feet, this wonderful stretchy wrap. Because feet are hard to bandage because they're inside of a sock and they're getting sweaty and all that, all the Band-Aids come off. But try to keep lots of this nice stretchy wrap, just don't put it on too tight. It holds all the things in place, even in a shoe. And we need to go. Okay. For wound care, you might be getting out of your depth, but we can at least help people clean those if you feel so called. Mild soap might be a thing, it might not be a thing. We try to keep like the saline wash and the pressurized thing to help people rinse out wounds if they need to.
Water pick, something other than, is that what you mean?
It's like saline in a spray can. I don't know, but it works like I imagine a water pick does. Yeah, you just want to you want to get it clean without don't obviously dig around, just help someone irrigate their wound. And antibiotic ointments and non-stick gauze. Don't put regular gauze on an open wound because it'll just stick and cause problems down the road. And then try to just tape it well and wrap with your sticky wrap if you can. If it's starting to get problematic looking, like red or streaky or really swollen or increasing in color or heat or swelling, they need to get that checked out, I'd say. If it's someone who's got a wound that's not looking great and they've got a fever, all of those, draining a lot, they just need to get it checked out. But you can give them a temporary, here's a bandage, let's get you some more help to get that checked out. Questions or additions?
And where do you send them?
So, usually to the downtown clinic, where they see folks without insurance. That's right on the Vermillion campus on Drexel Street. Neighborhood Health is the technical name of the clinic, but everybody knows it as the downtown clinic. They take walk-ins, sort of. But if you call and help somebody make an appointment, that's the best bet.
Was anybody answering the phone that you can?
No,
Not Friday night.
sorry, not for resource shelters, that's true. But you can get with someone and write down the information for them if they're not familiar with it. Some people have a PCP. A lot of people will say that they go to general and they have the temporary insurance for indigent folks. So just making sure, I think kind of with the language we were using with listening, making sure once you've listened to people and how they're feeling about it, that you try to encourage any ideas they have about yeah, I probably do need to get this checked out, and build the resolve to follow up on that. And definitely if it's something to that extent, let the outreach person know at your shelter that they really ought to follow up with this person to make sure that they're following through with what you've recommended. And then 2 quick ones about cold weather things.
Quick question
Yes.
before we move on there. Do you have a 4x4s or anything that you can put the creams onto so you don't cross-contaminate?
Yeah, but usually are using Q-tips for that, so you're not, time to go. Yes. Oh, but frostbite!
We'll have our winter training.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, anytime you're applying antifungal creams or Neosporin, put some on a Q-tip, put it where you need to.
Don't go back.
Put it back down. We're not trying to mix and match all the germs in all the places, for sure. Other things.
Is it just in general? Is it just one chair set up, or
Usually have
one at a time, or can someone else sew while someone gets
That's
work
usually
done?
what I do. Set up 2 or 3 chairs. People often will to sit and chat with each other while they're soaking their feet. Very salon sort of vibe. That's fun. Yeah, so someone can be soaking while you're working on someone else's feet. Hopefully we've usually got 2 people at each one that are helping each other out to sort of stuff. But yeah, it's pretty low key. Just be safe. Ask if you have questions. Helpful, not helpful. Okay. Yeah, so like watch out for frostbite, watch out for trench foot. Here are numbers to call if you get in a pinch. They're on everything. Okay, basic foot care things if you want to take a shoe with you. They're also, we have them at shelter sites if you're like, I need to remember what they said about this. These are the other things. So